The next, we have a fantastic panel. I'm going to introduce all the panelists while the chairs are being set up behind me. So feel free to sneak behind me and set up the chairs, team over there. Hopefully we can get one chair at a time, so as I'm introducing folks, they get to come in and they have somewhere to sit. And the moderator, I'll start talking about the moderator. He's the co-founder of Blockgeeks, a very good friend, Ameer Rosic, that's how his last name is pronounced. He's a fabulous individual in the blockchain and AI space. He's been in the blockchain for quite some time now, and not just the blockchain, he's into a lot of other disciplines. Ameer is one of the very, very few that is able to achieve neutrality in his ability to talk to folks and interview them. So I'm hoping you get to enjoy his ability to moderate today. The first panelist is Paul Lee, founder and CEO of Mind.AI. Paul is very close to my heart, but he's also in my mind, and that's why I think he co-founder Mind.AI. Paul, would you please come up? We have a chair for you. We'll start one at a time. Paul is, he lives in Korea right now, and he served in the Korean army, and before that he was in the UK for about 20 years. So basically, if you add them up, 20 years in the UK, 3 years in the army, so he must be 23. But I think he's a bit more than that, so I just took another look. He's got a lot more experience in building a lot of companies and exiting phenomenally. And currently, with Mind.AI, they're working on something that I have not seen before. I've been in AI pretty much all my life, and the method that they use is abductive, deductive, and inductive reasoning. Combining them together in that processor, they were able to have a brain similar to a 40-year-old, but yet with an ontology of a 3 or 4. They have certain methods to increase that, ontology as we speak, and they're executing on it. The next panelist is Nasser Rahal, is founder and CTO at fazeZERO. Nasser and I met at a conference. We were both the panelists, and coincidentally, we were wearing the same jacket and same tie as we were in the picture today. We decided to change just to let folks know that we do have other jackets and other shirts. Nasser as well is a Lebanese fellow, is very, few folks that I meet that they're, Lebanese around here, so he's probably the 2%. Susan Oh, founder and CEO of MKR.AI and chair of the AI Blockchain for Impact, United Nations General Assembly. Susan, please come up stage. Susan is working on a fabulous AI engine. I met Susan for the first time in person in Geneva last week, but we've interacted before virtually using web meetings and whatnot. Some of the things that she's working on, I classify them as they fall under HBGA, which is a human-based genetic algorithm. But she's introducing something that is super cool to that, which is also Paul is working on it. So it's amazing to see how great minds think alike. Paul is doing something about how the brain can be more and more intelligent, has a phenomenal ontology, while Susan's doing other components that can be very synergistic. So at the end of the day, I think if we are building something on this planet, we're building one brain, and the individuals that you see here on stage, they are part of that brain. Each and every person is taking one part. So I call it crypto HBGA. I came up with that name as I'm talking to Susan. I'm like, hey, crypto HBGA. And then I sat with Paul in Geneva as well. I'm like, let's call this crypto HBGA. So the first time ever in history, something is called crypto HBGA. You're going to hear a lot of it in the future. So the next person, Dawood Khan, founder of TransformationWorx. Dawood is responsible for educating 144 executives in the Toronto area, and he's planning on scaling this up across the globe. Dawood, please come up on stage. We've known each other through a lot of meetups. Shortly after I came out of the crypto closet, met Dawood in some of the events, Blockchain Canada and whatnot. And then last but not least, Farnoud Kazemzadeh, I don't know if I said his name correctly. He is the co-founder and CEO at Elucid Labs. Farnoud and I met virtually. Today was the first day we meet in person. Please come up. And now, please help me welcome Ameer Rosic, co-founder of Blockgeeks.
Thank you, Tufi. So, I'm trying to figure out how we can make this panel more or less kind of like a fireside chat. I'm not big on structured questions. I feel it's too artificial. And so basically what I want to address within this fireside chat is a question I have myself, and I'm guessing many people in the audience has this question as well, is, okay, you have these two amazing technologies. You have blockchain technology and you have AI, and there's many different definitions within each different category. In your own words, how do you see those two technologies working together? And we can start off maybe in order, you know.
Okay, great. So I ended up founding an AI platform about 1.5 years ago when my tech team from 2 failed startups ago came back to me and said, look, we have an AI that writes other AI, and we think this one can track fake news. And because I was a journalist for 25 years, they said, would you be our CEO? And I said, great, I'm on it. So I started building the training corpus for it, bootstrapped. And then I came back a month later and I said, I've got really bad news for you because there's no such thing as fake news. What we're looking at is we have to now do a line-by-line, word-by-word analysis and even weight the data with the relationship between the words. Data, as you know, is extremely expensive. In order to tag and label it in a format that the computer understands to even start training it is extremely expensive and time-consuming, right? And so what I decided to do was I was going to crowdsource some of that to get better validated data to faster train my AI. It'll cost you for a raw bot maybe about $400,000, right, roughly. It'll cost you double that to train it, triple that to maintain and analyze and make the most out of that. And so in my mind, blockchain features and tokenomics is an absolute godsend for AI. Not only it'll keep it human-centric so that when human beings can take on some of the laborious work of tagging and labeling the data and also better validating data for training your AI, it makes it much more efficient. And it also gives you the opportunity to financially include people who don't have a lot of technical dexterity. You help me tag and label my data and save some money and time in training my AI, and I will reward you with tokens, right? Very simple view of tokenomics.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Susan in all aspects as well. But in Mind.AI, the way we're using blockchain technology is we want to be able to democratize AI. And in order to do that, we need the community around the world, people like yourselves, to contribute. And I mean, the likes of Google, the Facebooks of the world, they're paying $400,000, a year for AI experts. What we're saying is we can incentivize developers around the world to use our engine, make money for themselves, but also contribute to the humanity, the goal for humanity, such as, solving poverty, solving education, and allow humanity to move a little forward. And the blockchain allows immutable data to be formed within its blockchain. And also, it's secure and it incentivizes people in other ways that no other technologies have done.
Cool. So, my take on this, Ameer, is, you've got two kind of like the way I think I have also a presentation, throughout the day. I'm gonna present kind of the two parts of the equation. You've got AI is just pure opposite of blockchain. You've got, blockchain is, very deterministic. It's immutable. You've got AI, which is very dynamic. It's very probabilistic. You've got models that you have to train, et cetera. But then, back to some of the discussions that were presented earlier, once we get the autonomous business processes and kind of value creation, which has no thinking about identities, no thinking about privacies, and so on. All that, these AI algorithms will be programmed to maximize values for stakeholders or for shareholders of a business process. That means, I'm going to do everything possible within the AI power to maximize the revenue. It doesn't care about whether you're a human, whether your data, your privacy, your identity, and any of those things. But if we get these two tools, like a blockchain tool or a distributed ledger tool, to say we're gonna record or hold the AI algorithm accountable at a certain steps of the process, and then make this immutable so that you can actually defend yourself in the court of law. You can first of all go to, for example, like when you talk about the right to be forgotten, for example, for data. All these things, we need to have some sort of a immutable ledger to say that we can refer to, so that we can basically go and get our rights in the court of law. So I think there's a big intersection between AI and blockchain that we have to explore, and blockchain would be the right tool to do that. So.
Excellent. What can I add to this amazing series of answers? The one, to me, at the end of the day, the most important things are human beings, right? Machines are also very important, and we see they're gaining citizenships in different countries and rights, and that's going to be an interesting sort of trajectory in our history, right? But if you think about human beings, if you think about bringing it to Canada, the local example, we have a lot of issues with data as we see it today. Data in our existing databases, existing systems. We've got this thing called a no-fly list that has over 90% false positives, right? With kids that are in diapers that are on that list. The Canadian government just announced $87 million for the next 2 or 3 years to try and fix that database. 87 million bucks, that should be in the database business. Just imagine that data feeds into systems all over the world. Our data, right, that falsely identifies us to be criminals or potentially terrorists or whatever, is going into these jurisdictions around the world. And if that data goes into machine learning, training systems, and that gets into AI, and that gets into machine decisions being made, that's a pretty scary world for me, right? So my biggest compelling driver for blockchain and AI is to try and see if at source you can determine issues with data and start looking at that kind of information, whether it's coming from sensors or existing databases, to be cleaned up and then entered onto these systems and then injected into AI systems for training and further utilization. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just add on top of what Dawood was saying. In health, where we operate, the data that's generated is owned by the individual, but you give the rights to a custodian, whether it's a hospital or a healthcare provider, but it's your data, but you don't have access to it. The custodian does. So going along the same lines of what you were saying is that if you want to, for example, participate in a trial, in a study, then it's not you who's enabling the study, it's the hospital or the custodian who's enabling the study. But now imagine you have blockchain and that allows you to own your own data, carry it around cross-border, cross-province, wherever it is. Now you have access to it worldwide, and you can deploy it as you will for purposes such as AI and for medicine. So that's how I see it really being useful in a very data-heavy industry like the healthcare industry.